Welcome to A Voice of Reason in Turbulent Times with Pastor Charles Burnett-Morrow. A powerful, practical, prophetic, and progressive commentary about what is happening in our world today.
Well, Mr. Trump has been in office less than 3 weeks. And for those of us who are thinking people, those of us who are awake, those of us who are not deceived and blinded by the stupidity of the false mega doctrine, we're able to see some things. Number one, we're able to see by reason of his conduct concerning immigrants that this man is willing to go after, mind you, he swore up and down when he was running for office that we're only going to go after the violent, we're only going to go after those with criminal records, we're only going to go after immigrants who are a threat to our society. That's what he said. The minute he got into office, they began to send out ICE agents to restaurants, to businesses, to churches, to schools, to scoop up immigrants. Folks there was no difference between those who had committed crimes and those who had not committed crimes. They have used their propaganda now for year after year after year, even as the Nazis used the same identical propaganda to demonize the Jews. The new Nazi movement, MAGA, has demonized immigrants. They have demonized organizations that assist immigrants. They've tried to paint them as enemies of America, as a threat to our society, as a threat to our nation. And in so doing, they have justified themselves in committing some of the most heinous and some of the most ridiculous and unfair and unnecessary acts. Now we have people in our country who have been scooped up, who are being dragged off to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Folks, if you think for 1 minute that is not the equivalent to a concentration camp, you are out of your stinking mind. I talked about it before. You cannot give anyone absolute power over another person and not expect that person to go crazy with power. That's how it works. Prison guards regularly mistreat, malign, abuse prisoners. It is common. It is a fact. That is the way the vast majority of prison guards treat prisoners. They don't care if you're there for writing a bad check or you're there for murdering a family of 10. It doesn't matter. They will treat every single person in their care the same identical way. Donald Trump and MAGA have painted those who have come to the United States and entered illegally as being lawbreakers. They're lawbreakers. These are people who have broken the law. If I see one more person on the right propagating this propaganda on television, in the news, and what have you, well, these people have broken the law. Yeah, but is entering the United States illegally, is that the equivalent to writing a bad check, or is that the equivalent to murdering a family of 10? I'll tell you this much, it's not the equivalent to murdering a family of 10. And just because 1 out of every million people who might enter this country illegally winds up committing an illegal or violent act, that by no means is justification for painting the entirety of those who have come in illegally as being murderers and violent and lawbreakers and this sort of thing. But you see, Donald Trump, just like Hitler, and I'm not joking, folks, I'm not kidding in the least, just like Hitler, he has painted the community of illegal aliens as being lawbreakers and violent and the most vile among us. The reality is this entire action on the part of MAGA is nothing more than an attempt to purge our nation of brown people. And don't kid yourself, because once they're done with that group, watch, they'll move on to the next, and they will find justification to move on to the next community. Many people don't realize Adolf Hitler did not only attack the Jews. No, there were a number of groups of people that Adolf Hitler had trouble with. He had trouble with people who were associated with unions. He had trouble with the Jehovah's Witness cult movement in Germany. He had trouble with the homosexual community. All of these people ultimately wound up being part of his roundup of the vermin, so-called, that polluted German society. What we are seeing now, my friend, is just the tip of the iceberg. And we better wake up. We had better wake up and understand what is happening right now. Because the next group and the next group and the next group are going to be identified in short order. And you're going to see them moving from one to the next, to the next, to the next, until they have purged American society of all people of color and all people of non-white, non-Anglo-Saxon background and heritage. That will include Asians as well. That, of course, will include Middle Easterners. That, of course, will include people of Hispanic origin, and, of course, people of African origin as well. So that's where we're headed. And Donald Trump has already demonstrated in less than 3 weeks the level of cruelty that he will go to in order to what he's really trying to do at this point with Guantanamo Bay, for instance. He's trying to scare people into leaving the country. If he can convince enough of these illegals, hey, look what we're doing, and we don't know what's happening to those people over there. We don't have a clue what's going on. Look what happened to prisoners from the Iraqi war who wound up over there in Cuba. Look what wound up happening to them. Look at what we eventually heard about. Do you think that Donald Trump is a man of such morality that he would not approve of torture? Do you think he would not approve of mistreatment? My God, folks, in his own rallies, he stood there and told people, rough them up, go ahead, be as rough as you want to be. This man has shown his hand from the word go. If you think for 1 minute that those people being sent to Cuba are being sent with orders, treat them well, treat them like human beings, treat them decently, you're out of your stinking mind. That is not at all the case. And what Trump wants to do, he wants to terrify enough of these people with this cruelty so that hopefully they'll decide to head for the border and climb back over the fence, as it were, and leave the country voluntarily. That is what he's hoping for.
A voice of reason in turbulent times with Pastor Charles Burnett-Morrow. Speaking truth at a time when truth is in short supply.